Welcome to my daily review. Today is Wednesday, April 16th, and another day on the stock market where we saw some volatility. It started last night with the NVDA taking a $5.5 billion charge. And so that got the semiconductors and the tech stocks rolling to the downside early on. And then Fed Chair Powell threw gasoline on the fire halfway through the session. And the Nasdaq closed down 516 points. Could have been worse. It was worse, but more than 3% and closed at 16,307. The volume was, 4% below the 50-day average, but above yesterday's, which, is an easy benchmark. If we could just get some news on tariffs from the administration, it would help a little bit right now, as everything seems to be going kind of negative with China and the U.S. trade war, and Powell saying that he's not inclined to lower interest rates anytime soon, and that's really what this administration wants is lower interest rates. Heck, we all want lower interest rates. But you could see it seemed like it's just kind of trading down, down, down into the Powell statement. And as soon as Powell spoke, it just accelerated to the downside. It's almost like the algos just turn on the sell programs. But there were some buyers into the close, which is, a positive. It didn't just close at the low, thank goodness, because at the low it was like more than 4% down today and only up 3%. So the low today was 16,066. I've been talking recently about how it's been making higher lows. Well, today it took out Tuesday's low, Monday's low, Friday's low, and now the low that's holding is last Thursday's low of 15,894. So that's, it's a line in the sand there. You got to have levels to trade off of, and that would be one here. Below that, that is no bueno, like run for the hills, hide in Warren Buffett's bunker, or do whatever you can. And then if it's above that 17,202, then it's, fire up the cylinders and step on the gas. But it seems like it's a long ways away from here, nearly 19, what, 1,000 points or 900 points, I guess it would be. I'm really bad at math here, but yeah, 17,202 would be about 900 point move. I'm not expecting that tomorrow, but it could rally. I wouldn't get too negative here. It made that low on April. What do you want to say? The 7th? Was it April 7th? April 4th. Okay, it made the low and then rallied up, and then it was the ninth there where it made that big move, the historic move, which was a week from today. So it's been a week. It's been kind of choppy. It had the inside day on Thursday, some positive action on Friday and Monday, Tuesday, an inside day. Then today fell out a little bit. And I know it's super frustrating for traders. I get it. A lot of people are contacting me on Twitter just saying like, gosh, I have a position, I have a little bit of cushion in it, and all of a sudden, boom, now I'm underwater and I sell for a loss, and that's pretty common. So if you don't take the profits when you have them, like you hold overnight, you wake up with a loss, and that's kind of bear market action. You just cannot hold in this market, and you definitely cannot get big on size because size will kill you if you're on the wrong side of the trade. Price will hurt, but size will kill. And right now, it's just hard to get any size in this tape. And you just have to play the market that is given to us. And right now, it's a very choppy, volatile market. I mean, just look at this tape here. I mean, when you see the index trading, 4 or 5% daily ranges, that's pretty crazy. Last Wednesday, it was what, like 13% or 15%, something crazy. So it's really volatile. And I thought it was going to calm down here, but today, with the NVIDIA news and with the Powell talking about, interest rates are kind of off the table because of he kind of threw it back on Trump. The tariffs are, inflationary, which I don't think that's a surprise to anyone, but it's just the market was expecting something different, and they're expecting rate cuts. Heck, we all want rate cuts, but I don't know if Powell's going to acquiesce at this point. I got to go to the SPY here. SPY, same type of action. It was not able to take out that low from what was it, last Friday? Yeah, that's good there. So the low today was 520. The low on Friday, I guess it was 520. So it's right at that low. Thursday's low is definitely holding. So maybe a retest. If I go to like a 10-minute chart, we can pick that up. A retest of this low on the 10th. Anyway, was it 514? Yeah. 5 11. Okay, April 11th. Okay. So last Friday. So that held, and maybe we can get some upside action tomorrow, but it's got to get through these moving averages here. You can see it was rejected at the 10. And the 10 is below the 21. So really it's got a lot of work to do. The 10's got to get above the 21 first. And this thing's got to trade above both of these moving averages. I know there's the death cross here with a 50 cross below the 200, and that is an indicator of bad things to come. And speaking of which, got to go to the IWM. This thing rallied, I should say, I don't know if it rallied, but kind of limped up to its 10 EMA and got rejected today. And this one was down, okay, less than 1%. So not nearly as bad as the SPY, because on the SPY, NVIDIA and Microsoft and Apple and Tesla are a big part of the SPY, whereas in the IWM, it doesn't have any of those large mega cap tech stocks. I've been warning about those stocks for a while. Um, yeah, they're just, I don't want any part of them. I think they're going to be okay longer term, but shorter term, they sure are causing a lot of turbulence. And I've got to get to that because I mentioned the death cross. It happened with Microsoft way back here. Microsoft was actually the first one of these mega cap tech stocks to, I don't know, enter a stage 4 decline would be a little dramatic, but definitely top and then trade lower. Still, in consolidation, there is hope for Microsoft. They're going to report earnings here April 30th. So I don't know. It hasn't done much good for them, the last couple of quarters. We'll see. But Microsoft was definitely the first one to hit that top and then hit that stage 4 decline. So that one doesn't look good. But NVIDIA is not far behind. And, no good news can save this thing. It just continues to make lower highs, just lower highs all the way down. And lower lows, 131, 126, 113, 104. I think it was like 88 at that low. Forget the date, April 2nd or April 4th. And people thought it was a screaming buy there, and it did rally up at 86 on April 7th. And it did rally up, but now, if you bought, you got to get out because it traded down to 100 today. And while you still have profits, I mean, I wouldn't hold on to that thing. It looks to me like a stage 4 decline. And remember, stocks top when fundamentals look their best. So people always tell me, oh man, the fundamentals are great with NVIDIA. Yeah, they are now, but what is it going to be a year from now? And the market's forward looking. And that definitely was not good news last night with the charge. All right, I'm going to move on. Oh, I guess I got to show Apple since I'm in the Mag 7. This thing rejected it. It's moving average here. Tesla doesn't look good either. It did rally up to its 200. Then, since then it's been making lower highs and lower lows. So, yeah, it undercut the 217 one of these days here. Went down to 214 on April 7th, and tried to rally up. Couldn't even make it back up to the 200. And once again, this one has the death cross. NVIDIA has the death cross. So, a lot of these, just another indicator that could be going south from here, even though it's suffered a lot of pain. There could be going south. Anyway, I don't want to talk about pain. I want to talk about how about earnings? We saw some earnings reports. I'm going to throw a curveball here or a change up and go to Travelers. This is a member of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which I didn't show. It's been performing a little better, holding up better, I should say, not performing. It's been holding up better than the Nasdaq. But this is up 1.13% on its earnings report this morning. PGR also reported earnings this morning, kind of flat on the session. It was up. I think just the general market kind of, oh yeah, general market. Whew, we'll call that the Jerome Powell put. How about that? Yeah, well, I shouldn't say that. It just sold off. And anytime you have earnings, you're going to have some gyration, so I can't read too much into it. Bros was up today, Brown and Brown. This is not Dutch Bro. This is Brown and Brown, BRO, and it was just flat on the session. Flat's good when the Nasdaq's down 3%. You'll take flat all day long. And then root. Some of these were up, and then I wrote them down, and then I went golfing, and then they kind of switched around. I think Jerome Powell kind of had something to do with that. I shouldn't keep saying that because it sold off. Jerome Powell didn't make them sell these stocks. The investors decided to sell these stocks. But anyway, this one's trying to get back through its 50 here. This is one of the insurance stocks that one of the more volatile, faster moving, I should say, stocks, high beta stocks. But anyway, all right, let's move on to I've got to go to gold. I can't have a session without going to gold because these things are making new highs all day. I'm just going to flip through a bunch of them. Some new ones here that I haven't covered. IAM, Gold, IAG, Skina Resources. Skina, that's that double bottom base. And this one didn't pull back at all. This one's making new highs. So just pointing it out, look at these big blue volume bars. So when gold is, ripping like this, and gold is your leading group, your leading industry group, clearly number one, this to me is very bearish, very defensive, very much safe haven type of stuff, where it's a flight to safety. They're selling everything else and just going to gold. But gold was up more than 2.5% today. I saw it at 3,333 before I signed on here. So when gold's up 2.5%, these stocks are going to do well. And then I'm going to go to my Canadian ones that I really like here. This is Wheaton Precious Metals making new highs. Who doesn't like new highs? We like new highs, right? This is Agnico Eagle up, yeah, new high. Did not, well, you can't, it didn't close near the highs of the session, but what did, on a day like today? Just being up is fantastic on a day like today. And then Orla is another one. Yeah, making new highs. OR, new highs. Go to some of the South African miners, DRD, new highs. They didn't close at their highs, kind of like, and I know people will say, well, guys, this looks like a climax top. And you're going to get people saying stuff like that. But to me, this thing just kind of broke out from this base. Yeah. Pulled back, what, 3 weeks ago? Yeah. Pulled back to its moving average. Last week had a stellar week, up 27% and following through this week. I'm not going to say it's the climax top. It's just showing strength. And, I think you got to look at when you say stuff like that, I think you got to look at different charts because you could say on a monthly, this thing hasn't even broke out yet. So just different perspective. And before you buy a stock, you should look at all time frames of a chart. All right. So I think that's enough for this group. Oh no, I wanted to show silver. Silver is making a comeback here. Silver is ripping. This is Pan American Silver making a new high. What are some of my other ones? The copper play, SCCO. Nope, copper's not playing. So it's gold first and then silver. And that's the way it is in the Olympics, right? You come in first place, you get the gold. So I like to stick with the winners. Silver would be like a secondary type of play for me. SLV, yeah. So it's not looking anything like the GLD here. So yeah, gold, definitely. You want the leaders. When you're in a game-winning situation in baseball, do you want to send up your 200 hitter with the bases loaded and 2 outs and down by 1 run? No, you want your 350 hitter, and that's what the gold is right now. So anyway, I'm going to get off the gold because I do it every day, and I think people are getting tired of it. But if you don't own a gold stock, it's pretty much the only game in town right now to really be able to hold something for more than, a day or two and be able to sleep at night. This is ATGE. These consumer service education stocks are doing well, and it kind of makes sense to me because of the I don't know what you call it. Just there's a lot of turnover, a lot of changes in education, and maybe people are doing a little more private learning or learning on their own. So this one got that RS line, heading due north with the blue dot showing strength. And you can see it's consolidating within a base. I think I had this on my ready list last week or the week before, but you can see the group, top 5 groups. So you're looking at top stocks and a top group. I put this one on the ready list this week, LRN. This one's trading tight within a base. a little more liquid than ATGE, and I believe it's got yeah, it's got the Lord on its side. So that I picked that one over ATGE for this week. I like them both. I mean, yeah, this one doesn't have the Lord on its side. But anyway, those two I like, and also Duolingo because people are going to learn, another language. You might even have students, high school, college students, I don't know, paying to learn a language instead of who knows what they're doing in school these days. Anyway, Duolingo is another one that I like, but below the 50, it's tough. Like I said, the Nasdaq, I gotta go back to the Nasdaq because I forgot to tell you. This thing, this thing is now with the death cross, it's still 9.9% below the 50 and 11.3% below the 200. So at some point, it's going to rally up to this 50. And I think we would all welcome a 9.9% rally. I mean, it's been below the 200 all of March, now all of April, so a month and a half. Probably not going to rally up there anytime soon, but it could rally up to maybe the 50 here at some point. Maybe not this month, maybe next month, who knows? But we would all welcome a 9.9% rally at this point. Just wanted to get that out of the way as I move on from education to the medical stocks. Abbott Lab reported this morning, breaking above this kind of downtrend line here. So, take note, these medical stocks, you can't give up and just say, everything sucks. And, you got to notice what's moving, what's showing strength. And this is Abbott Labs. They reported, 4% growth isn't going to get me excited. Double-digit earnings growth, not bad. Um, but the group is not strong, a strong stock here in a pretty weak group. There's another couple of medical stocks that I do like. Transmedics. They've been moving up off the lows here and just had a couple of quiet days here on Tuesday and Wednesday. Had an inside day yesterday. And even though the Nasdaq was off 3%, this thing was only down 2%. So just keep a watch on this one. You can see those moving averages here are heading north. We like that. The 10 EMA is above the 21. The 21's above the 50. So we like all this except for it's all below the 200. So, but it is heading in the right direction. The short-term moving averages are stacked, and that one looks good to me. And then SDGR, I pointed this one out when RFK mentioned that they're not going to use animals for testing. They're going to use AI. So it's right up Schrodinger's alley. But they report on the 30th, so you just got to wait for the earnings report. I still believe that even though the market's kind of volatile, that solid earnings, good earnings, strong earnings will be rewarded. Maybe not right away, but in time. You still have to deliver strong earnings reports, and if you don't, man, I think you're going to get crushed this quarter in this particular tape. All right, I had a couple of stocks on my red list this week. CrowdStrike, not bad. I mean, it was down 3% with the index today. Usually, when the index is down 3, you expect your growth stocks to go down anywhere from 6 to 10%. But this one held up. It's flat on the week still. While the index, I don't think I showed you what the index is down. It's down quite a bit this week, though, already, unfortunately. There's only one more day left in the trading week tomorrow because we're closed on Friday. And so the index is down 2.5% this week. So with crowd up 0.5%, it's outperforming. Palantir is another one that I have on my ready list. It's up nearly 5% this week, so not bad. You can see though in these stocks here, it's making higher lows, higher highs. And now today it made a low below Tuesday's low and below Monday's low of 91.46. The low today was 89.62. So, trying to fill this gap in here. Anyway, to me, Palantir still looks pretty good. It closed right at its 50. Not the end of the world, especially in this tape. A stock at its 50, not bad. I'm pretty encouraged actually by that one. Rubric is another one I was going to put on my ready list, but short trading week. I'm just still watching this one. I like this one. Double bottom base. And these double bottom bases could be, it's not guaranteed to rip higher. These things could be construed as, a bear wedge here and then a bear wedge here. And we saw what happened last time. It could certainly do this and pull back to 40, and then it would be a screaming buy. But just take it one day at a time. I do like Rubric. You can see the double bottom here on the weekly chart, 22% off its high, up 5.5% this week. Not bad considering. So this one's showing strength as well. A couple other ones, if you will bear with me here. TTAN, Service Titan, kind of a recent IPO here last December. Forget the date that it IPO'd, December 12th. Anyway, formed this immediate double bottom, came to market kind of, and during this market volatility, but you can see that the RS line is heading north. So we like that. And today was up 1.79%. So don't count this one out here, up 16% this week. We'll take that all week long, right? All right. And then SRAD, I keep putting this one in retail or software. It's a gambling site. Anyway, just kind of noticing here that this thing is showing relative strength. Look at the RS line. It's heading due north. And you can see it kind of broke out of this, if you will, this Darvis box here from 22 to like 18, and it just kind of broke out here recently. So yeah, we like that. 22.94. So anything above like 23, it looks good. Closed here. It's a 24 after hours. So SRAD Sport Trader or Sport Radar Group. All right. Well, let's move on here. Okay, I've got to go to the drugs because I still like drugs. You got to be super careful in this market because one day you think you're riding high and everything's okay, and the next day you get hit with the tariff news, and then your stock's down 10%. This is ADMA. I think most of these smaller biotechs are okay. This one's up 9.5% this week, which we'll take. But yeah, I had it on the ready list. I believe I took it off today because it's just getting a little extended from that moving average. I looked at it yesterday. I think it was like, yeah, it's still yeah, 11% yesterday. So 5.4% above the 10. So allow that 10 to catch up. It's okay if it pulls back there to that 2070 area. That's fine. WGS is another one that I like. I don't think I have this on the ready list, but I should. This one's consolidating within a base, trading tight. I like tight. This one was down, with the market today, 3.85%. And it's just been trading below average volume for a while here while it's consolidating, which you like to see, not the heavy selling. And then ETON, Eaton, I don't know what these guys do, to be honest with you. They're rare diseases, okay. But anyway, consolidating within a base, it undercut its 50, and now it's starting to rally back through its declining 50 here. But Eaton Pharmaceutical up 13% this week, so maybe that bottom is in 23.5% off the low. Eton Pharmaceuticals, ETON is a ticker symbol, and I believe, oh, I have one more group. Now, the retail sales data came out today, and I think what happened was a lot of the companies, a lot of people were front running the tariffs because the tariffs were announced. Liberation Day was April 2nd. So a lot of folks bought a lot of stuff, built up their inventory before April 2nd. So that would be March, February and March, and so I expect that to decline. As we had the spike in February and March, I think that spike goes the other way. We have a spike to the downside, whatever you want to call that. But MasterCard, you never bet against the USA. You never bet against, especially the USA consumer, because they'll go in debt on their credit card to maintain their lifestyle. And MasterCard's probably a safe haven stock. Double bottom base pattern, undercut to 200, and now it's above it. They're going to report on May 1st. Visa, I would put them in the same category. Same type of a pattern, not quite as wild. But they're going to report April 29th. And I guess I'll get to, in honor of the great Steve Jobs, one more thing. Earnings reports tomorrow, April 17th, American Express. It kind of kicks it off. And they're going to tell a lot about when things were bought and what people were buying and where they were spending. And I'm curious to hear from them tomorrow morning. Another one, big one that's in the healthcare, a big component of the Dow Jones Industrial Average is United Health Group. You could see this nice cup trying to shake some fools out here recently with the handle Not much of a handle. You can see this nice cup pattern here, though. I believe with a decent report, this thing could trade up to, yeah, 650 easy. So I'm looking for a good report from them. And hopefully we can buoy this market here and kind of stabilize it and stop this, stop the bleeding. Um, Put a tourniquet on this thing. Taiwan Semiconductor, I'm not a fan of semiconductors right now. I mean, just look at this chart, just in a decline. I hope for their sake or for the semiconductor, for the market's sake, that it's a good report with good guidance. I have my doubts. Cyclical business and yeah, we'll just have to wait for the morning. So I'm looking forward to um, American Express, United Healthcare, Taiwan Semiconductor, and DR Horton. The housing group has just been bludgeoned. I mean, it comes to a point where, been down so long, right? I mean, it's got to come up at some point, just on a report that's not as bad as feared. There's a lot of selling here in DR Horton, 41% off its 52-week high. We just got to wait to see what they say. It's going to be a tough report because, that group has been, a challenge to say the least. All of the KB Homes and even the high-end Toll Brothers, Lennar, Pulte, they've all been kind of saying the same thing. It's just a really tough market. So anyway, and then of course Netflix reports tomorrow night. Now you can't really trade options with Netflix because the market's closed on Friday. So if you have call options that are due tomorrow, you're out of luck. It's Chop X Thursday, not Chop X Friday this month. So monthly options are expiring tomorrow. If you have options, you probably have them at least for the following week, the 25th, and not for the 17th. And anyway, Netflix, I expect good things from Netflix. They're kind of insulated from the tariff, BS, and I think they're gaining subscribers. And I think it's one area where don't think people are going to really, cut their subscriptions. It's not really that expensive, and people like their entertainment to Netflix and chill. Spotify is another one that I think is in the same boat. Had an inside day today, so that's looking pretty strong in that double bottom. Spotify and Netflix are two subscriber stocks that I think will do well, even in a rough time. I don't know how rough it's going to get, but certainly, the Fed was talking about more inflation, higher inflation, and slower growth. I don't want to use the term stagflation, but I just did. Anyway, I lived through the 70s, and this is nothing like stagflation, believe me. It's just a little slowing economy, maybe a little higher prices, and the market will figure it out. You just got to keep watching. You got to keep watching for relative strength, and there's going to be a pivot from those gold stocks at some point. I don't know when. Might not be next month, or it might not be this summer, it might not be till the fall, but at some point there's going to be a pivot from those gold stocks into other areas, a rotation into another area, and hopefully it spreads out and we could have more of some sort of rally. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.